Title of the first section today is Graphing. In this section, we'll graph points on a XY axis. The first point we'll graph, the letter A, is the point 1, 2. Letter B is the point -3, 4. Letter C is the point 0, -5. And last point D is 3, 0. To graph these points on the XY axis, we can first draw a XY axis. If you label this, the x-axis is the horizontal or line that goes left and right. The y-axis is the line that goes vertical up and down. Looking at the points we're graphing, the biggest number away from 0 is -5. So we can go 5 spots in each direction, so our graph will be big enough to graph all the points. And before we graph, points are always x, y. So the first number that's represented is always the x, the number that goes on the x-axis, and the second number is always the number that goes on the y-axis. So looking at the first point, 1, 2, x is equal to 1, which would be here. Y is equal to 2, which is 2 spots up. And where they meet, that's our first point that we can label for point A at 1, 2. Second point, -3, 4. -3 goes in the left direction for x, and +4 would go 4 spots up. And we can label that B for point B. The third point, 0, -5. If x is 0, it stays in the middle, and -5 means we'll go 5 spots down. And we can label that point C. And last point, 3, 0. 3 would be 3 spots to the right. 0 for y value means it stays on the line and doesn't go up or down. And that would be point D and the graph for the section. Title of the last section today is titled Quadrants. If you draw a XY axis graph, and you can label the x-axis, the one that goes left and right, and the y-axis is the axis that goes straight up and down or vertical. There are 4 quadrants, or 4 sections of the graph. The top right quadrant is quadrant 1, and we'll use Roman numeral 1 to represent that. Going counterclockwise, the next quadrant in the top left-hand corner is quadrant 2, and we'll use Roman numeral 2 for that quadrant. Continuing around, the bottom left is quadrant 3. And the final quadrant is Roman numeral 4, which is a 1 followed by a B. So again, the top right-hand corner is quadrant 1. Going counterclockwise, we have 2, 3, and 4. For this section, we'll find out which quadrant each point is in. The first point, -2, 3. If you think about the point -2, 3, it is to the left on the x-axis, and it goes up, which will be in quadrant 2. Second point we'll look at is 3, -4. And again, we'll find out which quadrant the point 3, -4 is in. If you think about the point 3 goes to the right, -4 would go down, and that would be in quadrant 4. Continuing on the next point, 4, 2. 4, 2 would have a positive x value and a positive y value. So that would be quadrant 1. And the next point, -6, -2. This point, they're both negatives. If we have a negative x and a negative y, that would be quadrant 3. And the next point, -3, 0. -3 would be on the x-axis to the left. 0y means it's not quadrant 2 or quadrant 3. It's on the x-axis. So the answer to this would be x-axis. Next point, 0, 4. 0 for the x again would be in the middle. 4 would be 4 spots up, but it's not quadrant 2 or quadrant 1. It's on the y-axis. So the answer would be y-axis. And last point we'll look at is 0, 0. 0x would be in the middle. 0y would stay in the middle. And the middle point is called the origin. And that would be the quadrants for graphing a xy axis.